Hey guys, I'm back for another segment. Today I wanted to touch a little bit upon um, mourning the death of your old life. Why the death theme keeps coming up is because I think we're going through a grieving stage that's monumental, and it's not just you're grieving people, and it's not just you're grieving someone that's alive. I think you're also grieving your old life. And the reason why I felt like this was really important to kind of touch base on is the fact that even me myself, I've realized that I don't know if I'll ever go back to what life was like before. I think I've grown exponentially during this time frame, and I think I've internalized and realized a lot of things. And I know I have a million other things to realize, but I think I've found myself thinking like, okay, why do you do what you do? Why are you so passionate about what you do? What drives you to continue doing what you're doing, meaning AA, therapy, helping others, my spiritual work, just even these videos. And I said, I want to help people who are going through something that may not have a voice. And I think it's important to give that person a voice. So I think, and I was talking to a friend, and those who are artists, who are dancers, creatives, photographers, um, even, singers, those who kind of made a life are out of those creative outlets now have to, in some ways, mourn the death of that, because they don't know when they're going to get their life back, when they're going to have a time frame to do that, right? Because life as they know it, even actors, movies have been postponed, shows have been postponed. And it's like, I can't imagine what it's like for someone who's creative, who's created their life around this creative endeavors, have to now revamp and redo and rethink whether they can even, what are they going to do? What other skill set do they have? If they even put energy in other skill set, which I'm sure they have. But, when you've made something your main focus, it's really difficult to kind of stray away or even pay attention to other aspects of it, because a lot of your energy is going towards this goal, right? The goal of becoming a singer, a creative, a dancer, the professional actor, the professional photographer, videographer, right? Now, if society at this current time frame isn't pouring money towards those things, right? Because they're not having weddings, they're not having parties, they're not having any of this, where does the creative do? Where are they? Where do they lead? Where do they go? And so I think for some people who tied so heavily towards that idea, it must be absolutely heartbreaking, to have to let go of a life that no longer exists, um, and that we have no idea when it will create a space for that, right? Because even when we come out of this, what are people going to be pouring into? They're not going to be pouring into, creative ideas, really. They're going to be pouring into their more, the consistent necessities of their life, whether it is owning a house, repairing their credit, pouring money into what they have, savings, just trying to build after this. So that's just like one area of people, right? But then the rest of us, right? We don't even know if schools are going to open. How are we going to transition back? How will we ever, after being at home, being with our families, be away from them? Because in some ways we've gotten accustomed to this, and we've adapted to the transition, and now to again adapt to another transition, because nothing will ever go back again. to the same, right? The institutions will change, education, business. So I think that that's something that's very hard for people and very difficult for people to kind of like work through and understand. So that's one area that I wanted to touch upon and to kind of like work through. I think first thing I'm going to say is work with what makes you feel happy. That's the first thing. You don't have to constantly be thinking of the future. Um, that can be very taxing, that can be very overwhelming and very stressful to yourself and your body. I think live day by day at this current time frame. I did a vision board. Vision boards are very interesting to me because I always find that you realize a lot about yourself as you're doing the vision board. So I did a vision board and I posted on my Instagram live. And what I found was interesting that I kept taking more pictures and like finding more pictures of women speaking like in groups like of women and speaking just like holding a workshop rather than like the personal, which would be like a house, family, kids, savings. And I was like, wow, like I didn't realize that my voice was so important to me. I didn't realize that helping others was more important to me in this current time frame than it ever has been. And so I thought that was like really interesting. And I think that if you guys take the time to do your own vision board, to kind of find the space for you to realize where your heart is really at and question why certain things are more prominent, either pictures or thoughts are more prominent when you're thinking about your future. That's one. The other thing is, don't concern yourself on the how or the when. I think if you want to own a house, put a picture of a house. If you want to have a family, put a picture of a family. You don't know how or when those things are going to happen, but having those long-term goals will definitely ease some sort of stress now because you're like, you know what, I'm going to work towards that. And that's what a vision board essentially is supposed to be. You looking at major goals for yourself in the future. When I started putting and piecing mine together, really interesting, did not even realize that it was on the day of the new moon. And I was like, wow, I did not pick that. I didn't do that like intentionally. But I find that these things are really powerful when you do things, in alignment to the moon or in alignment to some sort of line within yourself. So when I started doing it and piecing it together, I was like, wow, I I've realized how much I've grown. I've realized how much my life has changed in my visual of what I want myself to be during this time frame. So I ask you, right? And I want you to think about what are things that you want for yourself, long-term goals. You don't have to know the when or the how. I just want you to ask yourself what those are. And the more you question yourself, go deeper. Ask yourself, why is it that I chose this? Why a house over an apartment? What is it about that, the distinction of the difference that makes it be that way? One thing I also realized is that I didn't necessarily when I took a picture of a house and when I printed it, I didn't necessarily put a place. And I thought that was really interesting because I live in New York and I love New York. New York is amazing. But I was, thinking about it the other day. I was like, I don't know if New York will ever be what it was. Why? Because so much has changed. And I see, as a therapist, I see a lot of people migrating. I see a lot of people questioning, like, you know what? Like, I don't know if I want to be here. This is pricey. Now, work, Lord knows when we're going to go back to work. Kids aren't going back to school till September. Maybe I shouldn't even be here. And so I thought that was also interesting. And then one thing I took away from that is that I always tell people a house, a floor structured, four walls, a door, doesn't make a house. You and the person that you're living with makes a home. So it doesn't matter where you are. It just matter who you're with. Even if that person may be a pet. or even just you. Whatever feels right to you is what's important about this whole time frame. So when you're mourning who you were and you're mourning the life that you don't have, think about the life you can have. Think about what no longer served you and start to put and place together on this vision board the life you want to have. And little by little, we'll begin to rebuild, and we will work towards that. So that's it. Keep working, keep visualizing, keep bringing your truth and your visions to the future into the present so that they may begin the groundwork for your future. Bye, guys. Take care.